Welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, the podcast dedicated to the Grey Cup champion Montreal Alouettes. I'm Cliffy D. You can find me on X at Cliffy D.
And I'm Tim Capper. You can also find me on X at Repact. That's REPPACT. And this episode of the podcast is presented by our good friends over at SportBuff, where if you use the promo code ALSFlightDeck10 at checkout, you will save 10% off on the entire order. So go over to sportbuffshop.com, use the code, save 10%, buy some of their nice and amazing Grey Cup Championship merchandise, and support local.
And as always, the Alouettes Flightdeck is all over the World Wide Web and social media. If you haven't already, make sure you check out our archive of our 7+ years on the air, so to speak, over at www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. Make sure you follow the show on X at AlouettesFLDeck. You can find us on Instagram at Alouettes Flightdeck. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/AlouettesFlightDeckPod. Make sure you also check out the YouTube page where you will find all of our Flight Deck live episodes as well as audio versions of the show at youtube.com/Alouettes Flightdeck. And last but certainly not least, if you want to show some love to the podcast, make sure you check out our merch store over at www.flightdeckgear.ca. And yes, we are on Blue Sky if you're into that sort of thing. Make sure you check out Tim at Repact, myself at Cliffy D, and the show at alouettesflddeck.bsky.social, I think it is. But in any event, you can find us there.
Yeah, I think you can just do a search from our X, our X profiles, and it's like trying to make Fetch a thing, Blue Sky a thing.
I think so.
I think it's more popular than Threads. I think from what I'm seeing.
You know what? It's kind of like, which generic brand of chips or soda or whatever snacks you like.
RC Cola,
better? Like RC Cola or Jolt or or Tots.
There's one.
You know what? Faygo. You know what? I'm actually a big fan of. I don't drink a lot of soda, but Faygo, which is all of our Detroit people know exactly what I'm talking about. That's the good stuff right there. Like if you have to drink soda, that would be the one to drink. But in any event, go ahead.
Yeah, what was your road trip go to when we were traveling all this season? Just the latter half. It wasn't Faygo. What were you drinking? It was Fanta. Weren't you drinking Fanta?
No, Fresca.
Oh, it's Fresca. Hey, there's another F. What the F, man? Faygo, Fanta, Fresca. What the hell?
What the Fs?
Yeah, what the Fs, exactly. Look, there is still some stuff to talk about for the Alouettes. Still within our celebration mode, obviously, and we're kind of continuing what we had last week with our chat with with media talking about the Alouettes, and we're happy to welcome back from TSN and the CFL on TSN panel and former Alouette David Sanchez, and we'll be getting with that into that conversation in a couple of minutes. And yeah, I'm waiting for this one, dude. I can't wait. I think it's like our 4th time having Davis on, so I can't wait to have him back on.
Davis always brings the fire. He's just so damn entertaining, and we're so happy to be able to have the chance to talk to him. And when you see David Sanchez on the marquee, so to speak, you folks are in for a good time. And I don't think this will be any different.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, that there is still, even though not much news coming out from the Alouettes, there still hasn't been a date made public yet for the yearly locker room sale and stuff like that. But we're hoping that's going to come soon too. But there were a couple of Grey Cup celebrations. One was at the Bell Center this past week, and they always, it's funny, dude. I go back to the last ones that they had, and it always seems to be a tradition that the Habs always seem to have a game right after the Owls win the Grey Cup, and they always invite them, which I love, which I really really love.
Yeah.
And they did just that this time around, and I swear there were more players this time around. They got more of an ovation. It just was a pure love fest for the Alouettes when they were bringing out the Grey Cup. And by the way, it wasn't Dequoy who brought out the Grey Cup this time around. It was Christian Matt. It's like that's nice. Yeah, having the vet bring it out bring out onto the ice for all the fans to see at the Bell Center. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, considering Christian was no doubt a part of the celebration 13 years ago. It's one of those things that is so great. And it's funny because usually you see it within a couple of days after winning the Grey Cup. But lo and behold, the Canadians were on their West Coast trip and didn't get back to the Bell Center until this past Saturday, which is when they had the celebration. I think the only thing that could have made this better, and again, it would have been complete dumb luck as a result. It's too bad the Habs were not playing the Jets, because that would have been too funny to see Montreal Winnipeg again for this.
That would have been amazing. But they got to see a good game, even though the Owls lost. The Owls. Even though the Habs lost to the Red Wings, it was still a very good game. So I mean, a comeback, and they lost in a shootout. I think they did, but still, it was seeing all the guys shooting stuff on social and seeing their reactions, and it was cool. I mean, there were a lot of players there. There really were a lot of players that were out on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have the full team, obviously, because a lot of the players have gone home, back to their respective homes and such. But yeah, there was still a great turnout. Still quite a few guys that are truly soaking in all of this. They're still here in Montreal, still enjoying this, gonna ride this pony down to the ground, like just until the wheels fall off, as they say. Mm-hmm. So, and why the hell wouldn't you? This may be the only time you win a championship. So yeah, enjoy the hell out of it, celebrate it, do what you got to do to really embrace that championship. All the joy and the splendor that goes with being a champion. Soak it up. Absolutely. I'm all for that. You live your best life. That's what it's all about, folks. I mean, you win a championship. I won't say you get to do whatever the hell you want, but I mean, you definitely embrace that feeling of, yes, I'm a winner, I'm a champion, and I'm going to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. I'm waiting for them to do a tour. I remember the tour that they did back in, I think it was 2009 and 10 with the Grey Cup itself. I mean, I know we've had our luck so far with them having that at the casino and stuff like that, and I'm curious to know if they're going to bring it elsewhere once each player gets their own day with it, so to speak. If they can wrestle it away from Tyson Philippot, which if you happen to listen to the TSN interview a few days ago, he's already, he's had it, he's taken it to bed a couple of times already. So, I mean, they got to steal it back from Tyson.
Good luck. I'm surprised he hasn't decided to put more poutine inside the helmet or just eat all of his meals out of it.
Something. Also, besides the ovation that they got at the Bell Center, they were also invited to the National Assembly in Quebec City. I guess to get they got to give the politicians their I guess got to give them their photo op. Politicians a photo op. What a novel surprise! What a novel idea. But yes, they brought to Quebec City Quebec Premier Francois Legault, and there were quite a few people. PKP went up there, and there were actually some players, I think, Cliff, that you'd mentioned that I was very surprised that were there that I didn't even know that had gone to Quebec City for this, I guess, Proclamation Day.
Yeah, recognized Reggie Stubblefield right away, Tyson Philippot. There's a couple of other, I think, pretty much the same group of people that were at the Canadiens game last Saturday. I think they made the trip to Quebec City for this, and you would expect to see all the Quebecois players there, and sure enough, they were, because of course this is their chance to sort of have their moment in the sun, in their homeland, so to speak. But it was hilarious to see you see Reggie just kind of looking around, just taking it all in, and he's loving it. Like I'm sure he doesn't understand a word that's being said. Again, if you look at his Instagram, like he posts a lot in French, and I'm pretty sure it's got to be Google translated. I mean, if he's learning French, good on him. I think that's amazing. It's just going to further endear himself to, Alouettes Nation. But I mean, I don't know truly how much of it he understood and what it meant and all that. But you could tell he was just taking it all in. As I said, it's part of that whole championship experience, if you will. And I'm sure, he got clued into like how important the National Assembly is to Quebec and all that. And I'm pretty sure, like, when he does decide to go back home to Texas, he's going to have so many great stories to tell, and people are just going to be like, "Wow, that's amazing," and it truly is.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I said they're taking the advantage, advantage in time to just again take it all in. I have to go back and check some of the socials because I forget to check Instagram. When it comes to watching what some of these guys are doing, they usually don't pop up into my stories or whatnot, or in the Insta stories. So I need to go and check that out. So some of that stuff. And speaking of things that will last a lifetime, and I think you mentioned this to me off air, and I was like, really? I had not heard about this. Supposedly some players went out and got tagged. Is that right, Cliff?
Yes, indeed. This would be... thanks to our friend of the show, Coach Phil from Coach Phil Reacts. He actually had Reggie on to sit and talk. And sure enough, they were at the tattoo parlor. Both he and Tyrese Beverett were at the tattoo parlor getting some ink done. And it was all, celebratory as far as, I guess, the tattoos that were being done were in celebration of this Grey Cup win. I didn't get a chance to see too much of what was being done, but... they had said that this was in honor of the Grey Cup. So, I mean, that's what the significance is, which is awesome. So, yeah, something else that people tend to do is, you win a championship, you go get a tattoo. And that's exactly what Reggie and Tyrese were doing.
It's better than going, and you and I have seen this, and I'm sure it's been on social media. It's better than actually getting the tattoo first that says, Super Bowl Grey Cup champions for X team, and then not winning it at all.
And I'm not a huge believer in like sports karma like that. Like, I mean, I don't think that's the reason why a certain team doesn't go on to win the championship. But you know what? If you're going to make the commitment to get a tattoo, wait until the team wins the damn thing first. The tattoo parlors aren't going anywhere, folks. We're not running out of ink. You don't have to rush to be the first, and like otherwise, you're just look goofy as hell. Like when like people get like Dallas Cowboys, Super Bowl champion tattoos from like 2-3 years ago when they were in the playoffs. Like, no, let them win it first.
Yeah, they're nice tats, but yeah, I agree. Wait.
Yeah, I mean, who is it?
It's like getting one of those tattoos that says "No regrets."
No regrets. Yeah. And that's the other thing too. Make sure you spell it properly.
Yeah.
God forbid someone gets a Grey Cup champion tattoo and it says Gray.
I was just about to say the exact same thing.
Oh
yes.
my god, that awkward.
Yeah.
There's your life lesson, folks. If you're gonna get a tattoo, make sure you proofread. Don't trust the artist because you just don't. Just do your research. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, we've seen some doozies.
Life lessons from the Alouettes Flightdeck.
Oh man. So I can only imagine what else is going to happen. I mean, we're into that period now where we're coming up on the time where we're probably about within, we think, about anywhere between 7 to 10 days before the schedule is going to be released. We talked about last week how with us almost guaranteeing that the Alouettes will have Labor Day weekend off because of Touchdown Pacific. Mm-hmm. So there will be more news coming out, and it's funny. We always joke, and I think we joked in the early years, Cliff, is that we would always do the show on a Tuesday. And then the big news would come out on the Wednesday, and then we really had to wait. By the time we do the show, the news cycle's basically almost run its end.
Right.
Well, we were actually lucky, and before I actually preface this, and we talk about this comment, we kind of, I think if we were to look into the past, Cliff, just slightly, maybe by about a week. Maybe last week's episode with Sean Campbell. Somewhere around the 15-minute and 40-second mark. Oh, what's that? I'm hearing from the producer. Yes, producer Tim. Oh, okay. Here's a little audio snippet from last week's show. By the way, and this is just me thinking, just based on what happened this year, and we do understand that Cody was signed to a 2-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be, and this is just me. There's no insider information. I would not be surprised if they give Cody an extension for another year. Would not be surprised, depending on who they bring back, and it'll be on the cap for next year and for 2025. I would not be surprised. So why would producer Tim put that into our ear holes? Well, today it was teased around 9 o'clock. They put these big 3 7s up on social media. So something coming at 11 o'clock. Yeah. It's funny. I didn't even think about it. And lo and behold, at 11 o'clock, we find out that our number 7, Cody Fajardo, as we predicted last week, or assumed. Hold on a second. I gotta stop patting myself on the back.
I was gonna say you're doing your best Barry Horowitz impression.
My arm's hurting me. I'm getting a little bit of a tennis elbow doing that. Cody Fajardo is extended through 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, and I know we were musing about it last week, but I think that it is obviously well-deserved. Kind of, it doesn't give me these vibes, but it just kind of reminds me of the similar type of thing with Joe Flacco after the Ravens won their Super Bowl, that he was assigned to a huge extension way back whenever the hell it was. I'm dating myself just by Joe Flacco in Baltimore winning the Super Bowl. But yeah, just the look on your face.
you know who Joe Flacco won the Super Bowl against, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. And it wasn't a slight. I didn't do it just to be a slight. I promise you.
No, I see where you're going with this, and that's fine.
I promise you. So, but yeah, to have the extension like that, considering what Cody's gone through, well deserved. And as I amused last week, is that maybe he's getting a little bit more that's guaranteed, because he will be in his 3rd and 4th years of Alouette's contract. So we'll never know, unless with some of the guys, like Dunk or Farhan or Dave Naylor tell us what he's going to be making, or maybe a local reporter here in Montreal. But well deserved. I mean, was it really a surprise to you when you saw this? I mean, I don't know what you thought when you first saw the social media post. I don't know if it rang a bell, 'cause to me, I was thinking something else. But no surprise at all for you that Cody gets this extension?
Not in the sense that, we kind of expect that, once the guy brings a Grey Cup to the city, then you kind of want to keep him around. I think that's the general consensus, is try to keep the band together as much as possible. And even though Cody was already under contract, I guess this was just another way to sort of say thank you for doing what you did. And yeah, without question, he definitely earned the extension. It's definitely exciting to see that, the Alouettes believe in Cody as much as he believed in himself. He definitely proved he was worth it. I mean, we talked about his play all season, and when he's good, he's really good, but when he's bad, he's bad. But as we've been calling him all year, he's consistently consistent Cody. But man, he came alive at the right time. This team got hot at the right time, but Cody truly got it together and became the leader of men. He became the guy. Like I'm reluctant to put him up there with the great Alouettes quarterbacks. It's still too soon. Yeah. But he definitely made the case, and he definitely showed that he definitely deserves our trust and our admiration as well, as far as for what he's been able to accomplish this year. And if this means that this is all part of the plan to help run it back, as they say, with the Alouettes, I'm all for it. When it came to the free agency moves that have to be made, this wasn't one of them per se, but I guess maybe having that reassurance, knowing that Cody is still going to be here, still working with Coach Moss, still leading this team, because these guys believe in Cody, especially after his very passionate, fiery pregame speech before the Grey Cup. I mean, he became their guy. To me, that's what galvanized this team truly going into that Grey Cup match, was Cody basically standing up and saying, "I've got your back. You got to have mine. We're going to do this thing." And he spoke it to it in existence. And to me, that's fantastic, and that's exactly what this team needs. And I'm definitely glad to see that Cody's going to be sticking around. And if this also leads to him getting guaranteed money and help really truly setting roots and being a part of this organization and a part of this city for years to come, to me that's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. FYJW, right?
And it's funny because I remember hearing the love he had for Saskatchewan, how he wanted to really make that his play. Like, and that's the thing. I feel like Cody's been trying to find home, and maybe he thought he had it in Saskatchewan, but then when things went south the way they did, and they basically ran him out of town on a rail, I think that was something he'd really truly been searching for, and it appears now he's definitely found it here in Montreal, and that's great. If that's truly how he feels, if he feels like he belongs here, to me, that's just going to make him play better. That's going to make him that leader of men that we've talked about. And I don't see any bad in this move. I don't see anything negative. I have nothing negative to say about this. I think this is definitely a move that is just going to further strengthen this team over the next couple of years.
And it also goes to what you were mentioning last week too. Is now let's see what happens with because this one surprising domino was fallen. Even though we knew we felt I felt it was necessary to occur. Let's see what happens with the rest of these free agents, because depending on how this contract was structured, you brought that up last week. So I know free agency only starts in February, but.
Oh, it started already. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind Danny Machocha has been starting to lay down the groundwork to see who he can bring back. And, as good as it is that he was able to get Fajardo extended and, make sure that he's definitely staying put without any question. Now it's time to focus on some of the other prize names and making those tough decisions on who to keep and who he may have no choice but to let walk in free agency, because truthfully, there's a lot of guys that I don't think they're not going to be taking hometown discounts, and winning a Grey Cup is awesome. There's no question about that. It's a great thing for them to add to their resume, but they may be at the point, okay, I got my championship. Now I need to get paid. Hometown discount is, some guys can afford to do that. Not many can. So, we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks. I'm not expecting anything massive before the new year, but I mean, this, as far as I'm concerned, this is the time. Like, start laying down the groundwork, start making your plans, and figuring out, essentially who you're not going to be able to bring everybody back, but figure out who you truly need to bring back, and get pen to paper. Simple as that.
Yeah. Plus, I think this one thing that we also keep forgetting and talking about too, when we talk about this type of stuff here, Cliff, is, the salary cap. Based on with the CBA, there will be an increase to the salary cap, and I think 2024 is at $5.585 million. So, and it also does an increase to the minimum salaries. Yep. So, I think it was 70. It was up to 70 in 2023, if I remember correctly. And I don't think it goes up in 2024, but still, it's still an extra bit of money. That's the thing. So,
well, every little bit helps. And as I said, some of the guys that were brought in, like the Sean Lemons and the Darnell Sankeys, were brought in on prorated contracts. But if the Alouettes want to keep those guys, for example, you're going to have to come up with some true terms. And again, they're going to want to be paid as well. If you want to retain their services, it will not come cheap. And once again, you may be forced to make a difficult decision as to, can you bring both back, or do you just bring one back, or do you even say, listen, thanks for your services, we appreciate you helping us get the Grey Cup, but I think you may have priced yourself out of this market.
Yeah. By the way, we keep talking about this too. Is that free agency and I would love to see the process of what the design process of what the Grey Cup rings are going to look like. I really am curious because, you have to go back into the Wayback Machine on Google to see what the last Grey Cup rings used to look like. So I can only imagine what these are going to look like. I can't wait for that too. So
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind it's going to be beautiful because let's face it, the past few Grey Cup rings have been really outstanding, and I fully
yeah.
expect. And let's not forget, remember seeing the first time you saw the 2009 Grey Cup ring,
Mm-hmm.
how blinged out it was, like,
Oh
and
God,
just
yes. And it was
it
the
was.
back to back. Oh yeah, no. In 2010 was the back to back one too. So
Yep, that one too. That had a great design and incorporated and really sold the fact that it was a back-to-back championship. But that first, like the with the Montreal splayed out like that and just all the ice on it and everything, it was just a thing of beauty. And I have no doubt in my mind that whatever the final design will be is going to be amazing. But yeah, I'm curious to see who's going to be involved in that process and what. You know how the teams always seem to have like little significant things here and there, and I'm sure Coach Moss will be inputting a lot of
the 1%, the 1% will be in there. I'm sure it'll be in there. It
the
has to
Great
be.
Eight. I
Oh,
mean,
the grade 8. Yep.
there's going to be all kinds of symbolism there. I'm sure of it. I mean, whether they engrave it underneath the ring itself or somehow incorporate it into the sides of the ring. I mean,
There will be at least 8 of a certain type of gem. 8 of them to symbolize the 8 Grey Cups for sure. For
I,
sure.
I would not be surprised. No matter what. I mean, you'll see the logo, you'll see the Grey Cup itself. I'm fairly confident of those things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be fun, and yeah, it almost sucks that we have to wait till essentially late May, early June to see it.
I know. Um, we teased it before. We're gonna be talking with CFL and TSN and former Alouette, former Alouette Grey Cup champion too,
Mhm.
David Sanchez. We're going to bring him in here, talk about the Alouettes, the Grey Cup, and I'm sure a lot more. So without further ado, let's chat with David Sanchez.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are always excited when this gentleman joins us here on the Alouettes Flight Deck. You know him as one of the many fantastic analysts on the CFL on TSN. Alouettes Nation knows him as a 2009 Grey Cup champion. It is once again our honor and privilege to have the one and only Davis Sanchez joining us. Davis, welcome back yet again to the Flight Deck.
It is my pleasure. My pleasure to be here. And yes, most importantly known as Grey Cup Alouette Grey Cup champion, especially these days. That's carrying some weight these days. So I'm honored to be in that brotherhood.
Well, there you go. You talk about what it's like to win a Grey Cup with the Alouettes. There's a whole bunch of guys here right now that are just learning how amazing it is for the first time. I mean, how excited are you for these guys as they experience the joys of knowing that yes, I am a Grey Cup champion and a Montreal Alouette at the same time.
Yeah, I've always said that one thing about playing in Montreal is that the city is a city that loves what's theirs, and it's I always felt like from my first day there that if you were an Alouette, that the city and the province kind of took you as one of theirs, and that was kind of it's different than other places I played. It was so I just thought that was special. So I could imagine these guys are having a blast, and I see them on social media, and it brings me back to some days back in '09, and yeah, good. I'm happy for everybody and the organization as well. Just happy that what was going on to be able to kind of turn it around and get things stable again, and then to have this ending is quite the shocker, but a good story for a province that deserves good football.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember because 2009 feels like a lifetime ago now, but when typically the Montreal Canadiens invite the Alouettes to come and celebrate the Grey Cup championship, were you part of the team, or did you go to that when in 2009?
Yeah,
Did you go to the Canadiens game?
yeah, I did. Yeah. And I remember I started to trying to get the chant "Go Habs, go" going because the game was about to start and we were about finished going off, and remember trying to get that going and just to get the hockey game and show the love back to them that they had showed to us. But yeah, I was there with the boys with Prue and Boulet, and I think we had a pretty good night after that as well, and Cox and whoever else was around with us. But Delorier was definitely a part of it, and all the boys. But yeah, we had a good that was an awesome night and some fun times before and after.
One thing I want to ask you too, by the way, Davis, is that obviously every time the Grey Cup is around you, do you always have to point out to your TSN colleagues that, look, here's my name right here in the Grey Cup? You see, it's always going to be there.
I don't think I've ever done it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
No? I don't think so.
You've never done. I was going to say, you've never done that to Stiegel?
Nah, when the Grey Cup comes around, I try to just be quiet. I feel bad for the guy. I mean, just he feels like he's got it all. He thinks he's handsome. He thinks he's smart. He's got some street or something named after him, and I don't know. It's what he tells me. In Winnipeg, he has a street named after him or something. But the bottom line is, he doesn't have a Grey Cup, so he's just average. He's just average Bill Stiegel.
And again, there's no comeback to like, oh yeah, see this thing? Oh, yeah, right here. That's my name. That's my name on this thing.
Well, you can, as you guys know, Milt would have a comeback. Milt definitely has a comeback for that. He's going to come back for everything, and that's my brother. But we like to have fun.
Yeah. So
now we got to get a street named after you in Delta or something like that, right?
Well, forget Delta. I'm thinking more Montreal, but yeah. But
okay,
no,
all right,
yeah. I won't hold my breath.
A street or a park? What would you rather have?
How about a bar?
There we go.
Yeah, how about that?
Look,
yeah.
The David Sanchez bar. I like it. I like
something
it.
on St. Catherine, something on Crescent Street, I would imagine.
Well, they told me there is one on Crescent named after me, but it says Ches Paris though, not Ches Davis. I don't know.
That's
Ches
hilarious.
Paris. I never understood. The guys told me it was mine, but I never understood why it's called Paris and not Davis. But
Cliff,
I swear to God,
this context.
I swear to God, you think this city would get the spelling right? You know, they got the Ches part, obviously. But
that's right.
Man,
we love
I don't know where they get Paris from Sanchez, but okay, maybe.
I was about to say, if Montrealers don't know what the hell we're talking about now, they better know, because it's kind of if you know type of thing. So, oh man, you were talking about the whole storyline itself, Davis, when it came to the Alouettes, and obviously the team and the players were always talking about it was kind of an us versus them mentality. I mean, you being on the TV side of it, I mean, how much of it was a combination of just that, of us versus them mentality, or was it, I mean, did you really think anybody in the league was really looking down upon them, or was it just a matter of teams had the better record that were ahead of them and you guys needed to prove yourself?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about them this year, the team right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. You said you guys, so wasn't sure if,
I meant his media. Sorry, I meant his media thing.
No, look, it's I find it, it was only Cody before the Montreal won. The only other person I ever heard really saying about haters and doubters and all that was really Cody. I didn't hear a bunch of other guys saying that, and whatever Cody needed to do to fire himself up, it worked. So great. But I don't think it was for us. It was whenever that kind of came up, it was kind of like if I look at the roster before the season started, and this is credit to Jason Moss, credit to Danny, credit to Anthony, credit to Noel. I mean, credit to the whole staff, Eric Delorier. I mean, these guys, when I look at the roster, their roster was just, it was at the bottom of the league. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you could say whatever you want. Haters, picking us 9th or picking us 8th. It was Ottawa, it was Montreal, and they were by far the two worst rosters in the CFL, and there was not a question. So when people picked Montreal 9th, it wasn't because they were haters. It just was because they were the worst team on paper. So it is what it is. But the game's not played on paper, so who cares? And so it's that whole haters and no one believed in us and all that. I mean, I think that's just self motivation. I don't think if you actually step back and look at it and honestly, I don't think you're gonna think people are hating on you. They're just gonna realize that that's what the roster was. But imagine, with that roster being able to take it to where they took it this year, and that's like I say, commend. Hats off to all those guys I mentioned and the whole organization and team because they were coming from a deficit for sure, and then they were able to pull off the miracle.
And what's really incredible too, like I guess you could say if that's how you got what it takes to motivate yourself. I mean, you do what you got to do, but I mean, there really was a lot of disrespect in the sense that this Alouettes team, they weren't ninth place last year. I mean, they were a converted touchdown away from going to the Grey Cup in 2022. It's just that with all the shambles of the ownership changing hands and certain free agents leaving, all that. I can understand why a lot of people would think, okay, well, this is not going to be a good team. Oh, okay, I'm getting the timeout.
There's no quarterback. I mean, one main thing you're missing is that Trevor Harris left. That's the difference. Trevor Harris is gone. So there's a big, when you talk about the offseason and there was a 2-point conversion away, but if they had no quarterback, if you watched Cody Fajardo play last year, he sure as heck wasn't good enough to lead this team on this roster to a Grey Cup with the way he played last year. But that wasn't the same Cody we saw in the playoffs this year. Cody was awesome, and I thought he was great. So, look, I don't think that anybody was wrong for thinking that. If you look at what the roster looked like, and you're looking at, I don't know what your feelings were before the season started, Cliff. Maybe you knew that Cody was going to play at a high level and no one else did, but or you Jason and Danny knew, but no one else did, or no one else believed at least. So kudos to you.
Well, I was very much in a wait and see kind of thing because, again, at this point, I think Danny Machocha had built up enough street cred, if you will. He showed that he can build a winning roster because, again, they were this close to going to the Grey Cup. So, I mean, yes, there's obviously changes are going to be made. There's a lot of players that you're like, who the hell is this guy? And then they end up becoming superstars. That's just, credit to the system, credit to the organization and how they run things and the belief that they have that these guys would become superstars in the Canadian Football League. And it could be any number of those things, but I mean, yeah, it does speak volumes to how this organization is run.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
You look at Jason Moss coming over and obviously Cody coming over from Saskatchewan. I mean, Davis, how do you look at these two basically these two men, two different years, because Saskatchewan basically had the exact same season as they did 2 years in a row. They lost 7 straight to end the season, back in 23 and in 22. But do you think it was that much of a change of location and scenery that really made these guys, I guess, become the Alouettes and the players that they ended up being at the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the CFL. It's really, and this is football in general, but it's the CFL especially. It's really who's hot at the end of the year. I mean, if the Alouettes played the way they played at the end of the year, and they got hot, the defense was playing out of their minds, and Cody was doing enough. I mean, if you look. Let's go back to the playoffs. I don't think, being fair, I don't think we look at, what happened in the playoffs with their offense and Cody and think, oh my gosh, who would have known they were so great? They weren't great. They were far from great offensively. They weren't even good offensively. I'm an Alouettes fan, and that's my team. But I'm also real and honest. They weren't great, but they did enough to win, and that's the one thing I've always said about Cody in particular, is that he's a gamer, and he's he'll do whatever it takes. I think he's got a skill set that he knows his game, he knows his skill set, and he plays to it. And I think he saved his best performance for the biggest game, and that's really all you need to do. And you guys might remember back in 2000 when we lost to the BC Lions in the Grey Cup. We were a much better team than them, but Damon Allen basically put the team on his back, and they beat us. And that was just a guy who was 40 years old, but saved his best performance for his last, and he played out of his mind, and they beat us, and that's happened. It happens all the time. In the CFL, it happens all the time. You know, the best teams don't always win. It's not like baseball or basketball where it's best out of 5 or best out of 7. It's one game, and I think the Owls got hot at the right time, and they believed in themselves.
It's incredible how you said it best. I mean, just different, same situation, just different teams, different players, different scenarios. But I mean, yeah, I look at this past Grey Cup, and yeah, there are a lot of similarities to the BC Lions and Montreal Alouettes teams that were there back in 2000. It's uncanny.
Teams, and it happens. Look at the past. You can look at the past 10 years. It's Toronto's done it a couple times. BC's done it. Ottawa's done it. They've won the Grey Cup with teams that are either 500, below 500, just over 500. And there's over the last 10 or 12 years, I bet you it's 5 or 6, 7 times it's happened. So it happens.
Yeah. No, it's. So it's I guess Reagan's saying don't necessarily it all seems to be it's a narrative. I mean, as I said, you're being fair. You're being fair in every way when it comes to Cody and the team itself. It's I mean, I'm sure you could look at the all the years that you've been with TSN, and even as a player, you can look at different streaks that you've gone, certain things that have really set the tone for what type of team you were on, whether it had been a good team, a bad team, or even a mid team. Because most of the year we were calling Cody consistent Cody. Didn't mean he was a good quarterback, but he was consistent. Right. So, and it's true. The O was just horrible earlier on in the year. When you go streaks where you can't score an offensive touchdown, that's not good. That's not good football.
Right. But yeah, I will end it with this, or not end it, but I would say this that in regards to the quarterback playing, you have to respect it. Now, even after what I saw right now, if I'm drafting quarterbacks to start next season, he's not going to be in my top 3 or my top 4 or top 5 probably. But you have to respect that. You have to respect that. In the biggest game, he played, and he played. He was lights out, and so I think you have there's a confidence there, and maybe next year, now that confidence there, and him and Jason have continued to build kind of what they do well together, and what this offense does with him and tailoring it to his skill set. Maybe that's a different story next year. Maybe he's my number 3 or top 3 quarterback next year after next season because of what he does. But it doesn't matter. All that, who cares? They're great. He's a Grey Cup champion. He's the MVP. And Montreal are Grey Cup champions, and it's a beautiful thing, and no one can ever take that away from you. You can tell me that whatever you want about what happened in the Grey Cup or whatever it is, but at the end of the day, I always tell guys this: no one asks how many interceptions I had in my career, or how many times I was an all-star, or how many times. No one asked me anything about personal accolades. I could have been a 3rd string cornerback and not even dressed for the game, or been on the kickoff team and not played on defense, whatever it is. No one knows and no one cares. They just ask one question. All they ask is one thing: did you ever win a Grey Cup? Do you have a Grey Cup ring? And the answer is yes. So it's and to be the starting quarterback, there's only a handful of guys, or maybe not a handful, but there's not a whole bunch of guys that can say they were the starting quarterback and an MVP of the Grey Cup. So just all respect to.
Absolutely. Now let's switch to defense. I mean, this defense this year was nothing short of outstanding, and credit to Noel Thorpe for getting these guys to play like lights out football. Who did you see as a cornerback? I kind of have a feeling where this might be going, but I want to hear from you. Who do you think had the most outstanding year defensively for the Alouettes?
Gosh, I mean, for me, I where I go. I always go right to the defensive backs, but in particular, I think their group of outside backers, I think were special. I think that you look at some of the stuff that you saw from Stubblefield, from Beverett. I mean, those guys were, and they came out of nowhere. We talked about guys that we didn't know a whole lot about, like Beverett, Stubblefield. Those guys came out of nowhere. Who else did I think was? I mean, obviously Dequoy, but that kind of goes without saying. He's been the guy that everyone's been talking about, and I think I think Dequan was a great story because the fact that he's Canadian, the fact that he's a local kid, and he's shown. And I think at the beginning, people just thought he was a Quebecer and one of Danny's guys, and that's why he was kind of getting a lot of attention. And then he proved, he kept proving over and over again that he was deserving of all the accolades he was getting, and I thought that was great for me to see. I was wondering, he had my good friends Matthew and Etienne on his T-shirt. I was a little disappointed in that me on. I should be on the T-shirt with those guys. A little disappointed. So maybe tell Mark to check to go back to the history of his Canadian DBs and give a little bit more love to. Maybe I should be on that shirt with those two guys. And plus, I'm much better looking than those two guys anyway. So. Well, should put me on it. That's probably why he didn't put me on a T-shirt, because he didn't want his girlfriend or his other people to see me on the shirt, and so that's maybe why. But I sure those are obviously two of my good friends.
Or maybe he just didn't want to put Ches Paris on there, and just insult you further.
Yeah, that's good.
He may be trying to save you from yourself, though.
yeah, absolutely. But great story. And I thought, what, it's and I won't get into the political part of it, but I thought, watching his passion and his emotion after the game, and that was it kind of gave me goosebumps. I didn't know what the heck he was all fired up about, and I learned a little bit about it afterwards. But just the passion was, like I said, minus the political part of it, just the passion that he showed was special to see.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I think people should be taking away more than anything else is, I understand where he was coming from with a lot of it, but yeah, like you said, the passion, just that. I'm sure he was thinking about his mom, his late mom as well, and just I think that
absolutely
everything just kind of comes to a head, and in a moment like that, you just go off, right? You lose control of your emotions, and especially too, he puts his heart on his sleeve every single day, and he just that's who he is, and you got to love him for it, actually.
Absolutely, yeah. I became a big fan, and I love when guys. There's a lot of pressure on him, and all eyes are on them. And he just seemed to, similar to Cody. He just played better and better as the stage got bigger and there was more eyeballs on him. He played better and better. So I became a fan. I've always been a fan of Ciante. Ciante is a vet in this league who's been good for a long time. So I've always been a fan of his. And Christian Matt, a guy who I've known for a while, and I'm friendly with, a great Alouette, and also very well deserving of this too. I was happy for Christian as well, there's lots. I mean, all the guys I've learned their stories. The guys who I don't know, I know most of the guys, or I've met most of the guys, or some of the guys, and just the story. And even to a point, a big part of it is Danny and Jason. I mean, you look at these guys, and you guys know the deal. Like, they're especially. Jason kind of being pushed out, and obviously didn't end the way he wanted to end. And then Danny, a lot of folks, and especially folks that some of my colleagues definitely thought that when Danny got rid of Cavis, and who else did he get rid of?
Hari.
That he was doing that to slide himself into that head coaching role, and then we proved wrong that wasn't the case, and I think he kind of proved himself, and that he was being honest, because he'd said all along that wasn't the case. And I think a lot of people thought that was BS, and it wasn't, and it was true. And he's, he's done a great job. So I'm happy for him too, and happy that all worked out.
Yeah,
you ever been on a team, Davis, where a team has brought in one or two players, around mid-season that made such an impact that, Darnell Sankey and Sean Lemon did for this team? Because sometimes there would be ego, sometimes there would be, I'm a longtime vet, but it just seemed to work really well, and they gelled really well with the rest of the defense, and we saw what they did for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it was a fit, right? Usually if you're bringing someone in, it's because you're at that time you're decimated or whatever it is. And I would say, they weren't decimated at middle linebacker, but it was just such a huge upgrade. Just Sankey is just such a good player that was big for them. And then the other one was I think Lemon was. You saw that the Owls just could not get pass rush. Like the first, half of the season or longer, they just couldn't get to the quarterback, and it was evident. It's like how are you going to play defense when you cannot get to the quarterback? And so, and then I mean, week in week out, we kind of talk back and forth with Sean. Sean's communicates with us kind of a little bit, and we knew Sean had teams that were interested in him, but who was going to bring him in? And it was 1 week, and then 2 weeks, and 3 weeks, and no one brought him in. It's like, is this guy really going to get signed? Like, he's been so damn productive. And then they bring him in, and he just continues to make plays when he needs to. And some guys just have a knack. Some guys are just special. And to answer your question, I don't think I've seen that that big of an impact especially from two guys. No, not that time of the season. I can't. Not that I can remember. Maybe one, but I can't think of two. That's for sure.
How about have you ever had a situation where a player comes into training camp, a young kid, plays his ass off, does a fantastic job, gets cut, strictly a numbers game, gets brought back and wins a Grey Cup or wins a championship like Reggie Stubblefield? Like to me, that's
right.
Probably one of the biggest stories this year with this Alouettes team. And there's plenty of them, but this story to me is still, I still shake my head in disbelief at how it all turned out.
Well, I mean, that means he wasn't good enough to be your number 2 or your number 3, and then he ends up being one of your most valuable players on defense. So it's impressive, and just how I didn't know a lot about him. Even at the beginning of the year, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to him through halfway. I probably didn't pay attention to him until the last half or the last month of the season, to be honest. And then just like, wait a minute, this kid's. I kept hearing people talk about him, and then you realize. He's got some ish to him. So he plays with attitude. He plays with instinct. He's a football player. I don't even know what position he is. I mean, I know when he plays in the Alouettes, but I don't know what position he would be, because he's kind of a tweener. And but he's a football player. It kind of reminds me of Tim Strickland a little bit. For those who remember Tim Strickland, because he's a hell of a football player, and he was fun to watch.
Yeah, no, just as I said, as when we do our year-end episode and we talk about all the stories within the story, if you will, he's definitely going to get a lot of attention, because it's been absolutely outstanding, and he is loving and embracing Montreal, much like you have. Like, it's just that he gets it. You know what I mean? Like, he gets what it means to be a Montreal Alouette, and it's great to see.
Yeah, it's him. Yeah, it's like too,
Nice.
and they were saying the other guy too that has a huge story clip that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is KB and Ento, a guy that you and I were just reaming on because he was getting burnt left and right, and then there was that one game versus Toronto, and then the bye week, and then all of a sudden the switch flipped. Something happened and switched sides of the ball, and look what he did. He saved the Alouettes in the Grey Cup, not once but twice. Because if he didn't bat away the ball in the end zone or get the interception, that game could easily have gone to the Bombers.
Some big time plays. And I was talking to Noel Thorpe. It was the walkthrough. So Saturday afternoon, the walkthrough, and he actually, that's the one thing he said. I asked Ento walked by, and I talked to Ento for just maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And Thorpe said, "Kid's got some great ball skills." And it was funny, and they were definitely on display. That was a big time play, game saving play for sure.
It's funny. We saw him in training camp. The scrimmage game that the Alouettes do every year. He played like his hair was on fire. Like, he was like, and I even said to Coach Thorpe, like, "Where'd you find this guy? This guy's incredible." And then the season gets underway. He makes the roster. He gets in there, starts playing, and it's just like, maybe we were wrong. It just didn't. It just didn't work. I don't know if it was nerves. I don't know if it was just the scheme. I do remember Coach Thorpe saying that he was switching him from boundary to field side. And that apparently made a difference. But I mean, in your opinion, do you think that could be something just as simple as that makes the difference in a player?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see him earlier or study it, but I could definitely see his skill set being. If he's going to play off coverage, if you're a boundary corner, he's long, he's tall, and he's long. If you're going to play off coverage, you're better off to play field corner if you're a tall, longer guy. If you're going to play in the boundary, you probably need to go up and play press. And there's only a handful of guys that are, if you're a tall guy and you can play press in the boundary, you're probably not going to be in the CFL. He'd probably be down south making a lot of money. So yeah, it's a play to play the field corner, to be long and rangy like he is. You can cover a lot of space, and it just allows you to use that length to react. So I could see I could see a difference for a guy like him to be, you know, be more have more success and more suited for the field if you can really use that length. You can cover a lot of ground. He's a gifted guy, so I would put him over there, let him use that skill, and that's probably what happened.
Yeah, and boy, talk about way to finish the season. Like the Eastern Final, it gets a pick 6 against Chad Kelly, and as Tim just mentioned, the outstanding game he played in the Grey Cup itself. I mean, once again, you're talking about the stories within the story. It's magical, quite frankly.
So many of them. Yeah. What are the boys doing out there? Are they having some fun, or what's are more guys now choosing to stay there for the off season? I assume. Once you win a Grey Cup, it's like yeah.
Quite a few guys have gone home, but there are a few that are still out there. Was it Tyson Philpott, Reggie Stubblefield? They actually went to the Quebec National Assembly with the other French Canadian players and got saluted by. So I'm saying like it's got to be a trip for someone like Stubblefield to go there. Like kid from Texas, and he's like everybody there is like hardcore French, and he's like he's sitting there, he's taking it all in, he's enjoying it, and I think he had a good time at the Canadiens game as well. And saw he was getting inked as well. Him and Beverett were getting inked, so I'm like, you got to celebrate the Grey Cup. I guess that's what you do now is you get tatted now. So they're living their best life here.
Do you still have that tattoo on your lower back, Cliff?
No, that we got rid of that one. we don't talk about that one.
I think Stanbeck's still here in town too. Him with his entire family. I mean, I'll give a good example here, Chaz. Is that we've talked about how people become part of Alouettes Nation, and you're always going to be a part of Montreal, and no matter how much or how little time you spent with the team. He may have left last year, but Gino just came back. Gino's here all year round. So, and he just returned back from Edmonton for his off season. So, I mean, I love the story, dude. I mean, I wish as many players for the Alouettes could spend more than just a regular season here. I mean, it's like yourself. I mean, it's like I'm sure you learned so much about the city. It's how you made your name in the city and stuff like that. So it's just like. If you have the chance, just stay in off season. Yes, it may be cold. Maybe from Texas, you may have never seen snow before, whatever. But still, it's just a part of the experience of getting to know, where you play. And I'm sure where you played, you always try to get as much of an experience as you're hoping that these players do too.
You're spot on, and it's a blessing, right? And that's we were joking about my colleague Milt Stiegel. It's one of the things we talk about. We've talked about it often. And it's that he was able to play in the same city his whole career, and that's one of my regrets. Is I left. I mean, obviously leaving for the NFL. I had to do that. That's not an option. But twice I left in free agency, we just couldn't agree on some numbers at times. But I mean, the amount of money that I left for. The legacy of playing in the same city I played 11 years in the CFL, and to play, all 11 years in Montreal and really, I think that that's the one regret I have for sure is not spending, my whole career there. And if I can, and you can't always, like, it doesn't always work that way. If it's, guys got to take care of their families too. I saw a post that Gino had on social media the other day somebody had asked him, made a comment about him and how's he feel about not being with Montreal and blah blah blah, and he talked about his family and having to take care of his family, and that's part of it. We can't always and sometimes teams don't want you, and that's also the case. So, but I would say this: whenever I tell guys, anyone that ever asks me, I have a chance to talk to guys. I always say if it's for a couple $1,000 and everything's close to equal. I mean, try to spend as much time as you can. And Tim, like you said, it's to be, in the fabric of a city and try to, be a part of it. And the blessing of having, a city embrace you and a team, an organization. And it's as much as it's business, it can be family if you treat people right. You do things the right way. The people in the city will love you and take care of you as long as you treat people right over the long haul. And I think if you can do that, I think it comes back tenfold. And I think it's free for any of our players' lives. I think it's always a benefit.
Oh, I think a plus for you too, Davis, is that you were here with the Wettenalls, and just the names the Wettenalls who made here in Montreal. Sure, Mr. Wettenall may have not been making all that money if he was making any money, but the thing is that he became part of the lexicon. He did it right, and that's the Owls really have over the past couple of years. It hasn't happened. COVID came, and then now it finally seems. We got a local owner again. And PKP seems to be, we got his sophomore season coming up. It's funny to say as our owner, but it seems to be that PKP seems to be doing everything right. And it's just a whole giant PKP effect. But that's what you need. Just be treated right. And again, you'll make a name for yourself, not only in the CFL, but in the actual city that you played in. So
I will say this to touch on the Wet Dolls, but it's they were so good. People always, you'll find the odd people that are, what was it like in a negative way? What was it like to play in the CFL? Like, did you guys were you treated well? I've heard stories, and I just stopped them like time out. I played for Bob Wettenhall, and I was treated first class. Larry Smith, Jim Pop, Bob Wettenhall. I was there for 8 years with those guys, and we were treated amazing. I played with the University of Oregon. I played big time college football, as big as it gets, and I played in the NFL. And the way we were treated in Montreal was as good. Obviously, not as big of a crowd and all that stuff, but I would say being, how we were treated, as good as anywhere I've been. And it all started with the Wettenhall family, and they were amazing. They were great. So,
yeah, I feel like over the past few years, like that Alouette way, for lack of a better term, kind of got pushed to the wayside. But now I feel with the ownership of Pierre-Karl Pelledeau and the work that Danny Machocha has done to build this roster. I mean, he said he wanted to build a Grey Cup winner, and it took him 3 years to do it, which is not bad at all. But I feel like now that this team is back on track, we're back to establishing that winning culture and not accepting mediocrity. And to me, I think that's what's going to help keep this team going for years to come. Not just the fact that a billionaire owns a team and you don't have to worry about the bills being paid, but the fact that now people have fallen back in love with the Montreal Alouettes. And to me, that's what's going to keep this team successful for years to come.
Absolutely, and I love all the local players. I think that's great. If I'm building any slack that Danny or Eric or whoever's signing players, Jason gets for signing 1 million Quebecers and Montreal kids on the team, you're clueless. You're absolutely clueless, because I would build the team exactly the same way, and I'm a West Coast kid and have nothing to do with it. I would build the team the exact same way, and that's you can get as many kids that are local as you can on that team, as long as they're as good or better than the other guys you find, and then keep doing it, because that's what it's all about.
You're from your lips to God's ears, Davis.
What before we let you go, Ches, what's your off season like? I mean, you're done now, TSN. Obviously, it's you guys can be coming together at all during the off season. I know there's not the whole hullabaloo with the the schedule release and yada yada like they do for the NFL and stuff like that. But what do you have planned for the off season?
Yeah, we still do. We'll do free agency and we'll do in the off season moves, and there is no off season. They slow down till after till January, February. We'll slow down with the CFL stuff, but once February goes, we'll start looking at the college kids and the draft and start and keep going there. But there's the off season's a short window, because we'll start. There's always news, and that's our guys. Mostly. Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji will take most of that stuff, and those guys are, as you guys know, they're on it every day. They're working on it today probably. Those guys don't sleep, so they're on it. I'll do my NFL stuff. It doesn't stop for me, so I keep going through NFL stuff, and as CFL news pops, I'll I'll be on that, and I'll be involved in the draft and the free agency as well.
What got you into the whole, I want to say, betting aspect of things, as far as props and things like that? Like, what got you into that more than anything else?
Oh, my whole life. No, I've always loved it. I've always been, I've always looked at NFL fantasy and betting, and it's just been something I've always looked at. I was a poker player. I love poker. I've always loved betting and gambling. And as soon as it became legal, and I know it, so I've been around it since I retired, and so I know the game, and I understand the industry, and it's a great fit for me. It's just something I would be, if I wasn't working in football, I'll be doing that full time anyway. So I'd be doing sports and football betting, and that would be that's my passion. That would be my career, whether I was involved in TV or not. So it's just something that I'm passionate about, and I spend today was an off day for me. I spent 8 hours watching Bailey Zappi film and Mitch Trubisky film and looking at stuff for this weekend. So it's just I just love it, and I'm knee deep in the coach's film and looking at every angle of everything and looking at defenses, and it's just what I do, and I love it.
Wow, that's dedication to sit and watch Bailey Zappi film and Mitch Trubisky film. Sorry, Tim. Tim's a Steelers fan, so I actually kind of feel bad for him right now. So.
Yeah, well, I feel bad for him too. I watched the film, and Pat Freiermuth is the only one getting targets. As I studied looking at my props for tomorrow, it's the only one I could even think about looking at on the over was Freiermuth. I just also, hey, let me ask you a question, Tim. If you're a Steelers fan, Deontay Johnson, catches a touchdown with 3 minutes left in the game, down by 14, I believe.
They were down by 14. More. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and he starts dancing and doing a celebration by himself, and then I think someone joined him. But as a fan, I know my thoughts are as an analyst and as an ex-player and just a guy watching. I forget about that. Just a guy watching football. I know what my thoughts are. What were your thoughts seeing a guy celebrate like that down by 2 scores with 3 minutes left?
Well, that's it. And obviously, it's not the CFL where anything can happen in 3 minutes. But yeah, with the way it's funny how much the Steelers actually mimic the Alouettes offense earlier this season. It's just so bad. You don't do that. You don't do that type of garbage. I mean, come on.
This guy was dancing. Yeah, for those who didn't see it, he got a touchdown with 3 minutes left in the game. Down that made them down 14, and he went off into the whole dance by himself. It was just. And I'm not like an old, get off my lawn old man here. I like to have fun. I like to have fun and let it loose. But to me, that just, seriously. To me, it just showed me a guy who is unaware of the situation that his team is in the game, and he's worried about himself. Like that to me, I was pretty disgusted by it, or not disgusted, but I was actually embarrassed by it. Like, this guy's embarrassing right now. I'm kind of mortified.
Well, yeah, especially when you have your starter going down who's not doing all that well. I mean, and we don't know how long, Pickett's going to be out for because he had his ankle surgery and stuff like that. And Trubisky really hasn't made a name for himself either way, considering the past 2 years. So, yeah, stop that garbage. If you have a chance, if you're within 3, maybe. If you're within 3, maybe, sure. Okay. But other than that, stop that. Even in the CFL, you don't pull that garbage. You don't pull that garbage at all. It's like I'm sure I don't know why Coach Tomlin just didn't pull him aside and say, "Dude, come on." I'm saying, look at the clock. Look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, I bet you after the game there was a conversation.
Yeah, as they say, act like you've been there before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. Davis, we love having you on here, man. We appreciate every time you come on here. You bring it every single time. If you're not following David Sanchez, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, shame on you. But Davis, if they're not following, how can they follow you on social media?
Yeah, I think I'm just at David Sanchez on all the platforms, the Tickety Talk and the Instagram and the X Twitter stuff. I post all all of my betting picks and all the fun stuff that we do. And I don't do enough of social because I'm just lazy. But I do love football, and more importantly, or as importantly, I love the Alouettes. My favorite, the place I've been longest in my life in any job, any sport, anything is in Montreal, and I was blessed to be an Alouette. It's part of my heart and my chest, and so thank you guys for being so good to the team and organization, and doing what you do for Owls fans as well. So, and yeah, a lot of love. Thanks for taking the time to have me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Once again, Davis, thank you so much, and looking forward to 2024. It's crazy to think, but yeah, it's let's enjoy this moment. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, the next season, get it here faster than you think.
Listen, let those guys enjoy the off season.
Yes, we will.
100%. Love back at you, Davis. We really appreciate you. We appreciate you, buddy. So we somehow got into, let's see, tattoos. Talked about Shea Perret. Oh my Lord! I love talking to Ches, man.
Ches, he's so good. As I said, he brings the fire every single time he comes on this show, and we are so grateful. So grateful.
It's so funny.
Just chef's kiss. There's no other way to describe. Every time Davis comes on this show, and we can't thank him enough. As always, anytime we invite him on, he's there. He's like, I got you guys, no worries, and
yeah,
always brings it, and that's what I love.
Who knew you used to have a tramp stamp that kind of symbolized what the old Saskatchewan Rough Riders had at the bottom of their jersey. Now it's gone, man. Who knew? Things you do when you're young and stupid, or old and stupid.
You're just plain stupid.
Oh, that Chez Paris. Best one-liner. That's the best banter ever, I swear. That was pretty good. As I mentioned before, at the top, we're still waiting to find out when the date is going to be given for the yearly locker room sale. The one thing I do want to say, and that's all I'm going to say, is that I've been hearing that they are going to be selling helmets, I think, this year too. And if that's the case, I'll be going early so I can at least get in line. So everybody else stay away, please.
Yeah, you don't want to go. It smells at the Big O, and it's terrible.
Like, oh my God. But I do want to do one thing, Cliff, is I want to give a huge thanks to Corey, who is or will be leaving the Alouettes. He is their current boutique manager. I just want to thank him for everything that he's done for us. Really nice dude. We wish you nothing but the best, buddy. Whatever you're going to do going forward, and obviously we welcome whoever's going to be the newest manager of the boutique. I'm sure they got a lot to do. Stuff that we've talked to when it came to both Corey and his predecessor Cam. To that, they got a lot of stuff to do, man, and it ain't easy. So,
and if history tells us something, his if it's a he or whoever it is, their first name has to start with a C. I guess that's.
Oh yeah, you're right.
we don't make the rules, folks. That's just how it works out. So
that's it. I'm sorry. I mean, it's that's how it is. So
wait a minute. Cliffy starts with a C.
Oh my God! And my last name?
Oh snap! I don't know. I think we're better off. In our position here, being like the two old guys on the Muppet Show. Just sit and talk shit about everybody. I think we're better doing that for the Alouettes and trying to sell their merchandise.
I'm not going to go by Waldorf. I'm sorry.
Hey, the Alouettes aren't half bad. No, they're all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, couldn't do that. Well, yeah. No, we won't.
No. Usually this time of the year, we usually see some guys that are signed by the Alouettes. It usually doesn't get very much fanfare unless it's something that you and I know about or we've seen play. Kind of, harks back to the day where we were given an inside scoop of the Alouettes signing Fabian Guerra and Malachi Jones from the Arena League. And what's that, back in 2019?
That was
That's back in
2019.
2019. So it always seems to be that, and it's across the CFL too. They usually have great relationships when it comes to having, being able to find the hidden talent in indoor football. And the Alouettes, there wasn't, again, not much fanfare, which is fine by me. But the Alouettes, Cliff did sign somebody recently, and he has a kind of a pedigree where it's funny. Malachi Jones, back then, he was the Offensive Player of the Year in the Arena Football League in 2019. Mm-hmm. This gentleman that the Alouettes just signed was the Indoor Football League, the IFL's Offensive Player of the Year. And I can only wait to find out what this guy can do, right?
Oh, definitely. And it's funny because let's not forget, when we started training camp this year, all the talk was, this Alouettes team has no receivers other than Tyson Philpott, because they didn't know who Tyler Snead was. They didn't know who Austin Mack was. They didn't know Keshawn Abram or Courtney Smith. Mm-hmm. Or Courtney Davis, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, who the hell is that, guys? And look what happened. Tyler Snead, outstanding receiver. Mm-hmm. Austin Mack, the most outstanding player nominee for the Montreal Alouettes this year. Cole Speaker, who, again, he was the training camp darling last year, and you saw what he did in the Grey Cup this year. I mean, the dude has, came out of nowhere and just became, these guys come out of nowhere and become superstars. Almost, I won't say overnight, but they are now, these guys that we just mentioned are now household names and are also Grey Cup champions. Let's not forget that.
That's true. Yeah.
Could this next superstar in training be the next Austin Mack or Tyler Snead? We obviously won't know until
camp. Yeah.
Until camp, but I mean, again, this time last year they announced the signings of Tyler Snead and Austin Mack, and we're like, I don't know. Well, I knew who Austin Mack was, as I said, because he's a former member of the San Francisco 49ers, but Tyler Snead and a lot of these other guys, I'm like, I don't know who they are. But okay, let's see what happens. I mean, there was a time too. Eugene Lewis was just another training camp body. There was a time when
he was number 80. Before he was number 87.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. There was a time when a lot of you didn't know these guys from a hole in the wall, and look, they get the opportunity. They're given a chance to shine, and shine they do. And next thing you know, you're buying their jerseys. You're pissed off because the Alouettes didn't sign these guys to a long-term contract and they left in free agency, or they're helping your team win the Grey Cup. That's what football is, folks, especially here in the Canadian Football League. Mm-hmm. One day you're just another camp body. Next thing you know, you're the MOP.
Yeah, exactly. So the Alouettes signed wide receiver Ramon Chekio Bowman. He's out of Northwestern. And as I mentioned earlier, he was the 2023 Offensive Player of the Year in the IFL, and he played for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. Again, he could be one of these diamonds in the rough again, that a person that we had no clue, balls out in camp, and he makes a roster spot. But again, we won't know until May. We're assuming it's going to be in Trois-Rivières again, but it's, wherever camp may be, we're going to see what this guy can do. Because usually, as I said, it seems like the CFL is usually able to. They have a very good relationship with a lot of the indoor leagues. So I really can't complain. By the way, Cliff, and I thought this was pretty cool. And if we get a chance to speak with him, I think this is Ramon actually has a one of those 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon type of things. He actually has a tie, somewhat of a tie to the Montreal Alouettes. So the current head coach of the Northern Arizona Wranglers is Les Moss. And Les Moss is the son a former Alouettes head coach, Perry Moss. So
We should make clear it's spelled Moss, not like Jason Moss.
oh yes,
M-A-S.
correct. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Just again, because you hear Moss and you're like, oh, well, any relation to Jason Moss?
Right.
No,
That's true.
Different spelling, folks.
But very well known, obviously, in indoor football. He's a hell of a coach. But again, his father was very well known in the Arena Football League with the Orlando Predators. But again, he coached the Montreal Alouettes. So there's a tie. So I think I'm not reaching. This one I'm not reaching. Usually I'm reaching, but 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Okay.
If you're looking for another tie, you said you went to Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
That was also the alma mater of our running backs coach, Tyrell Sutton.
Oh, yes.
So there's another tie. Another, I guess, one of those 7 degrees, if you will. But
hey, yeah. I'll take it. It would be funny. It makes me. We'll have to talk to Seti and see if he knew. If he knows of him. And by the way, so just in case if you guys are wondering, Perry Moss was actually the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes from 1960 to 1962. And if I'm not mistaken, Cliff, Coach Moss was also responsible for the red-winged helmets.
Ooh.
Which they started to wear in 1960. So even more. The
more you know.
History. Yeah. I'm waiting for that little thing to go across the screen. The more. That's dating us. Anybody remember those things? I think it was NBC. The more
NBC,
you know.
The more you know.
The more you know. It's like the G.I. Joe thing.
No, that's knowing us.
Knowing is
now
half
you know,
the battle.
and knowing is half a battle. Exactly.
G.I. Joe.
Yes, we're old. Shut up.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Sorry, vintage. We're vintage.
Oh, yes, that's right. Pedigree. We have a pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
A legacy. So we thank you guys for listening to the show this week. Hope you enjoyed the interview with David Sanchez. We do want to at least mention to you that next week's episode will be our season finale, where we will be having a year in review, and including, it's currently scheduled, just trying to get it narrowed down, but I am going to announce it anyways. It is our yearly State of the Team address or interview with the Alouettes president, and we are hoping, and it was going to be with Mark Waitman, and we're trying to find out more about him. I want to know his story really too, which we asked Mario, I think, how he got involved with the Alouettes, how Mark was brought back, and obviously to try to find out what's coming up with the Alouettes in 2024, because there's a lot of things to celebrate. There really are. I mean, it's the year after the Grey Cup. You got the 50th anniversary of the 1974 Grey Cup team. There's going to be a lot of cool questions and hopefully a lot of information that we can get from Mark next week.
Yeah. So, folks, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, however you consume it, whether it's through YouTube, any of the podcatchers out there, however you're consuming the Alouettes Flightdeck, make sure you're subscribed. If you're on YouTube, definitely leave a like, subscribe, leave comments as well, because we check those out. We appreciate each and every one of you that contributes to this show. And that's truly the best way to stay informed and know when all these episodes are going to drop, because we want to make sure, like, we have every intention of finishing this 2023 season with the biggest bang possible. The fact that we get to celebrate a Grey Cup win is absolutely fantastic. But I mean, this was one hell of a year. I mean, it's from start to finish. I mean, I'm already, my head is spinning just thinking about going all the way back to January when we first started learning some of the stuff that was starting to go down, and we're just like, what the hell? And it just from that moment to where we are today, sitting watching the Alouettes win the Grey Cup live is something that is still so incredible. It still is a lot to process. And
you mean I actually have to write notes for next week's episode? God
You
damn
might
it.
you might have to. You may have. I may be grilling you a little bit to see what your thoughts were on this, that, and the other. So if you haven't already, and folks, you too, it, check out our archive, alouettesflightdeck.ca. Head on over to YouTube. Check out all of our flight deck lives. Make sure you get yourself caught up, because this is a hell of a year. Looking very much forward to talking with Mark Waitman about it, and I'm sure he too has to be excited, thrilled, even a little dumbfounded as to how all of this came about. And it's going to be a blast talking to him and sharing that with each and every one of you, and being able to finally put the period at the end of the sentence that is this Montreal Alouettes season that will not be soon forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. And also let us know, what's your favorite episode for this year. I know there's so many. There'll be at least 37. So, but still, it's all for you guys, and we really appreciate you. So we'll talk to you guys next week. So everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.